So, welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Dev Weekly episode 19? 19?
Yo ho ho! This is
Yo
SharePoint
ho
Dev
ho!
Weekly.
Exactly, exactly. Merry Christmas, holidays, whatever the festival season it is. I don't know. So depending on which country you are located and culture as well. Now, so this is episode 19, isn't it? Right?
I
Waldek?
think it is.
I think it.
I'm not doing the count
That,
now.
and because we've been doing this on every single week, this is actually 19 weeks in a row, which is actually pretty cool. So,
Yes, it is.
So we were just debating actually on just sharing everybody who's watching this, debating on should we do a recording on the first week of January, right? We actually should do that, so we're not actually missing a week.
Yes.
We need to make it happen. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Anyway, so in this episode 19, we're trying to be short. So last time we went way too long because we were chatting with, do you remember how to pronounce the name?
Joao.
Joao. Thank you. We were chatting with Joao for quite a long time, actually. We went like 50 minutes or something like that. And the target is 20 to 30 minutes. So let's try to keep this short this time. But the point of this one, we don't have any visitors. Point of this one is more I have a discussion on how is it going and also to talk about the future potentially. So what are we hoping, what will happen with the community and the product maybe next year, right?
Yes.
But before we actually go there, just out of curiosity, so this is 19th episode. Waldek, which episode was your favorite? The one where I was not present, right?
Well, not really. So actually, that one I learned a lot. I learned because like typically the way we do it is that Vesa does the weird things with the image. Typically the way we do it is that we record an episode and Vesa will prep the meeting, set up the call, and do the production, publish it, and all that. And it seems like not that much work until you have to do one by yourself.
Yeah.
And then you realize how much work gets into it to prep the link, get everybody's name, because we want to idea for us is to help people reach more people. And for that, we need to get people's name, Twitter handles, blog articles, try to find out in which corners of the web we can find things that people would share that you wouldn't see otherwise. Yep. So from that point of view, the one episode that you were in there gave me a real life insights into how much work you put into that. So with that, I mean, I can only say respect.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that is just like one of the 20 video production things you do in a month, right?
That's true. Yeah, there's quite a few of these what we do in a week. To be fair, the community calls are relatively easy to produce because it's mainly just adding the intro, the PMP intro, which reminded me we need to actually change that one as well with the new logos. Damn. But you're adding the intro, which was in the start of this video, and then the outro as well. And then because it's community call, we don't actually cut anything away, or we don't even typically add any messages or anything like that. So
right.
The SB Dev Weekly is different because there's always the person name and a Twitter tag and the links and everything else and random comments every now and then on the video, because I think those random comments, I'm actually curious to see if somebody's giving us feedback on those, but those random comments are actually making the video more, let's say, interactive, more interesting, because you never know what's going to happen and suddenly there's a random message while like thinking something or something else. So
now that you mention it, I actually haven't watched any of the episodes. So now I wonder, like, what did you put in there?
There we go.
Okay, now I need to well, the good news is the next 2 weeks I am off work, so that gives me plenty of time to watch back 19 episodes of us talking.
There we go. Yes, indeed. No, well, but it's adding the presenter, adding the white, what is it, the 1/3 on the start,
the overlay,
overlays and everything else, and that
banners,
everything does take time, and also the blog post actually takes some time and all of that. So yeah, there's quite a lot of things. On the other hand, I think the only way, well, that's one thing what we've been having a discussion in the together with communities, that are we having too many videos, are we having too many community calls and everything else. And apparently the conclusion out of our survey was keep on doing what you're doing, everything is fine, which is quite a lot of work. But it's the main purpose is to make sure that people are getting value. And even though you would miss one call, it doesn't really matter. We will repeat some of the important stuff on the following ones as well, which is one of the feedback what we're getting every now and then. Why do you have always the same slides for certain slides on the community call? But hey, we want to promote certain things, and repeat is really super valuable. So Because if you think about Twitter as an example, it's just a moment of a time. You promote something, and it's a moment of a time, and it's gone. So you need to repeat.
And I guess it also depends on time. I recall that when at Rancor we wanted to. That was, I think, 2 years back during Ignite. Yo ho ho.
Yo ho ho.
I think that was during Ignite when we tried to run campaign on Twitter, and I noticed that a tweet would stay in picture like for 10 seconds. There was so many things going on at Ignite, so it only proves a point. Like, if people don't search for specific things, or they don't follow you, or like you only have like, there's really a small chance that you'll actually be seen.
True.
Right.
That's true. And that's something what I think everybody as a individual bloggers as well as an individual person writing blog posts and everything else should also learn. It's not about the one moment of a time. And quite often, actually, what I've seen, I do social media experiments, but people write the blog post and then it's like, no, it's done. Awesome. And it's Sunday, 9 p.m. on my time, so I'm going to tweet it out. Not a good idea. Wait until the Monday afternoon on a certain time frame.
Debatable.
But it's one of those things. Or then you do repeats, and then you retweet the thing so that people can find it in multiple different time zones. Because we have people from New Zealand, Australia, in APAC. The whole Asia is huge area. We have Europe, we have US, and it's a global world. So we need to be.
And there's even more to that. Like, I am still getting questions about blog posts that I wrote in 2012. Like the other day, I talked to a customer who just migrated to SharePoint 2013 on-prem. So like there is the bubble where we live in, and then there is the reality. There's plenty of people in the field doing still things about which we talked like way back, and we move beyond that. But there are still plenty of people who actually still do that, for whom that is still the reality.
True, absolutely, and that's understandable because whatever we are showing right now as a SPFX, it's still a new thing. It's less than 2 years old.
It is.
Think of it. So, and it's not like everybody have had a chance to start implementing stuff. If they're in SharePoint 2016 on premises, they're limited on what they can do and all of that stuff. So it's completely understandable how it works.
So with that, would you say that for SPFX, is there still like I don't know what the name for that is. Like when you look at the bell curve, I think that's the thing. Yeah. So is the top yet to come for SPFX?
It's yet to come. Yes, because now if we obviously are tracking. We've been showing those metrics every now and then in the community calls as well. But in the community calls, if you have a look on the metrics, every single Monday we're beating the previous week. So every single Monday is, by the way, the number one usage day for SharePoint Framework. I do not really understand why, but it kind of makes sense. So in certain countries, Sunday is actually the first working day of the week, and then
really,
in certain areas of the world. You were not aware
Didn't know that.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
So so in MIA, as an example, in Dubai, Sunday is the first working day. So Thursday is actually Friday, so to say. So so they And Dubai and the MIA area is actually quite big, and they are early adopters of a lot of the stuff. Early adopters of cloud as well, and they have data centers moving in there as well. There's a lot of money in that area as well. So. I think that's a combination. Obviously, Friday is already slowing down because APAC moves to weekend already earlier, so you can actually see that. But anyway, the adoption curve, every single Monday we are beating the previous Monday, and that means that it's not slowing down. It's not like whenever it's gone stable for, let's say, 4 weeks in a row, then we know that we are kind of on the curve and it starts stabling down. But it's still just skyrocketing.
Yeah, and then you will do another announcement, and there will be a conference, and there's another bump.
Sure, there's always Now, when if you think about SharePoint Framework, and if I think about let's say the status where we are, it's not like we have a massive amount of super kind of a great, awesome announcements coming up, because I still think the extensions were a massive deal. Obviously, web parts is a huge extensions, massive deal. Microsoft Graph and API support, securely calling, a massive deal. But and now we're kind of concentrating then on the Teams development with SharePoint Framework, and that's going to have a pump. on the usage, but it's not yet super visible, most likely because the Microsoft Teams development isn't actually that, let's say, widely used. Microsoft Teams is more, if you think about SharePoint, everybody wants to have a SharePoint with a custom brand. In Teams, it's around the tabs, and it's not yet widely adapted customization model.
Maybe even from that point of view, so Teams hasn't been around for as long as everything else, and maybe, as you say, because it is a client tab, there are different scenarios to extend it, and maybe also different needs. So as such, like, you wouldn't justify, maybe, for example, like, if, like, for things that you would build, for example, a web part in on the web, like, imagine you come to Portal and you will see, let's say, the weather.
Yep.
Maybe in Teams, the way people want it is to have a bot, which wouldn't justify using SPFX or different kind of dev, or maybe they're just not scenario that people look for in Teams.
Yep.
Right. So maybe as such, it's just like comparing apples and pears. Right? It's
absolutely.
not, you cannot really say, like, because the numbers are different, because maybe the numbers that they are fully justify needs that people have, and it's perfect.
Yep, absolutely. And if you think about SharePoint has such a massive historical background.
Yes.
And everybody used to be SharePoint developers, and then plenty of them moved to Azure and other platforms as well, which is completely understandable because it's the maturity of the cloud as well, and the services. Now, in SharePoint has always been a intranet platform, and an intranet platform has different requirements than a business collaboration or a chatting platform like Microsoft Teams. So it's kind of completely understandable. So absolutely. Now, and obviously, it's if you think about the SPFX, so that's really the area where we're then investing in the future. So Office add-ins, panels using SPFX. We talked about this one a few times. Or there was a interviews by David Mowat in the ESBC by people and asking, is this something that we're looking into doing? That's actually surprisingly well. We have an alpha version of that already out internally, and it's great to see that it's actually working quite nicely. And because that will then help people to have and implement customizations for Office add-ins as well, because the classic story with Office add-ins from Microsoft Teams has always been that, hey, we have this manifest, we are pointing to a URL, you'll implement whatever is happening there. Which is like, okay, yeah, but
where?
Who's hosting? Yeah,
exactly.
Where is it hosted? How do I get permissions? How do I get things? How do I implement this stuff? What is the platform? Yeah, we don't care. We're super open. Yeah, but give me something.
Exactly.
And that's what SharePoint Framework is bringing, and which surely will have to be renamed if people are successfully adapting the SharePoint Framework as a Teams development platform or an Office add-ins platform. So we'll call it Waldek Framework.
Woohoo! Yeah, basically the same way like bugs are named after people or things, and like, yes, that framework will be named after me. Perfect.
Yeah. Sounds good. WFX, right?
We just need. I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, we need to double check that it's free. I think Victor Villain would be happy with that one as well. So
yes, there you go. You have two people who are pro already.
Exactly.
Vesa, that would be like, yeah, double. No.
Yeah. Close, but not.
No cigar.
Cool. But so let's talk about the future. Let's talk about, we'll probably do another, let's say, before the year changes. But what is your, let's say, Christmas wish list for Microsoft related on SharePoint Framework and the cloud development on the Office 365? What would be the thing what you see as a missing right now?
So there are actually a few things, right? So as you said, right, up until now, there were only few like bigger announcements around SPFX, like extensions, but everything else was just like getting up to par with the basic that people need. And I think that beyond this step, like, we have pretty good coverage of the major scenarios so far. So it will be interesting to see like what will be next, like how will SharePoint Framework evolve, like which new scenarios it will open up.
Yeah.
Like what couldn't we done ever so far? Because like extensions, equivalent of custom actions. Web parts, web parts. So up until now, it was all about the parity.
True.
What will be the first unique thing for SPFX?
Yeah.
It will be really interesting. Like what can we do?
Yeah, the killer app. Well, to be fair, the client-side web parts is already kind of a killer app as well, but it's kind of the really personalized, something which you were unable to do on the class.
Exactly. Maybe there will be some new kind of shape or new kind of scenario that will open up. I don't know. That would be really interesting to see if there ever be that, or will it just be the thing to cover the basics and basically align with the portals and just offer a way to extend it beyond what's available out of the box, but still within the boundaries of a page.
Yep. Because that's something that I've been I'm receiving emails as we speak right about now again on this one. So there's a lot of people who are doing and using SharePoint Framework, and then they're using SharePoint Framework to do DOM page injections, and then that's causing a headache. So I think that's absolutely an area where we as a Microsoft will be investing, and we have to invest, is to make sure that those gaps related on the missing capabilities which are forcing people to do DOM injection are being addressed. Now, in many of these cases, actually, when you start asking questions on, so why do you need to do CSS injection? Well, because I need to do this. Okay, why do you need to do that? When you start actually drilling the question, the income actually is that, well, I don't know. There we go.
Exactly.
So, because we've been doing that in the past. Sure, we've been able to do that in the past, but now, is it actually something where you want to spend time and investments and money in the future as well? And the answer might be yes. So that's absolutely understandable. But it's an interesting discussion always, as an ex-consultant also. I'm always asking, why are you doing that?
Well, I mean, and the why is maybe not even the thing, because so that's a thing that I learned in my new job that I have now at Rancor. It's like, I used to be a dev, so I totally get, I love to hack things. Like for years, I've been working my way around SharePoint, trying to build public-facing websites, which one thing that they have in common is they don't look like SharePoint. Yep. So, and I would really go to the level of rewriting the generated HTML because SEO.
Yep.
Which is like you would know, like, why does he do this? Because it is a website. It serves different purpose than collaboration environment, right? But now that I am in the position where it is expected of me to justify or to decide, like, what do we need to build for the customers that we have? Yep. It's like, when you ask somebody, do you want that? Like, sure, absolutely. Like, the answer will be always yes. So
absolutely.
Instead. So instead, apparently, what is a better option is say, like, what would it allow you to accomplish?
Yeah.
Because then you can move away from the technology, solution, and code, and not like, okay, what do you want to accomplish?
Yep.
And then think, okay, so if you want to search easier, maybe you don't need to rewrite
search experience,
search box, but then maybe you need something else. But let's talk about what you try to accomplish, and not like, why do you need that? Because because I need to search.
Well, it's debatable again. The why, that for me, why actually means that as well. So I'm always filling on the questions, and okay, so you needed to do CS injection on the page using SPFX. Why were you forced to do that? But we have a custom style. No. Why do you have that custom style which you need to do?
Yes, and then the 5 whys. Yes,
exactly. Because that's really everything what we do as a developer. We should always consider, rethink that. Hey, so what is the value of what we're actually doing here? Is this really, there's a right or wrong, and there's academically right or wrong, and then there's multiple right and wrong things, right? Everything, it depends.
Well, but I mean, it's not easy to move away that from dev, because why? Sure. Because like, why you are dev? Because you love to solve puzzles.
Correct.
And if the harder the puzzle, the cooler it is to fix it.
True.
So when somebody asks you to do something impossible, you won't ask why. Like, oh yes, I'm gonna close myself in a room for a week. I will fix that.
Yep.
You won't ask why.
Yep.
Right, because that's not the way you tick as a dev, and I know because I've done that too. Like and sometimes even I was like, okay, so I am being asked to do that. Like, I would maybe even expand the things to make it like, yes, we need this because, and I would add my own experience on top of it. Maybe even at times that it wasn't really asked or needed. Why? Sure. Because again, you want the best. You're thinking way more
ahead of the game. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas if you would ask why, maybe the customer is like, well, to be honest, now that you ask, I don't know.
Let's actually cancel your contract and let's cancel your agreement.
That's not what I
meant. I want to do that. Yeah, but it's an interesting discussion. And it's always an interesting challenge, and that's, by the way, our puppy who's barking on the living room. But as an example, the DOM injection is always a super good example, because one of the things how we addressed a while back, like 3-4 years ago, the farm solution, the adding model transition was with DOM injection. We actually that is the original birth of SharePoint BMP. We actually showed how to do DOM injection and how to address those business requirements using DOM injection. And now suddenly they're saying you shouldn't be doing that anymore.
We can say fairly that we grew up since then, and we realized that maybe comparison on technology is not what we need. Maybe we need to think again about why are trying to do that.
And if there's an alternative way of making that happen rather than using the DOM injection, it's better than using DOM injection. That's basically the learning. So which makes perfect sense. So cool. We've been chatting again for a long time. So let's see. How's my office colleagues? They're pretty static still. Okay, so all good.
Actually, you asked me what I would expect, but I wonder, and that might be like putting you on a spot and putting you in an awkward position, but what would you like to see next year? Because I know that like I can imagine you can see a bit ahead of what's coming and why things are the way they are, and you cannot share all of them, but maybe without going into depth, like whether it's coming or not, whether it's from like what do you think would make sense regarding maybe even if it's viable?
So obviously the modern experiences in SharePoint is a big thing for us, and that's where we're betting heavily. And we do have internal programs related on addressing the gaps in the modern experiences versus classic portals, and that's a really big thing where we are betting. We haven't actually had too much progress on that one. Well, some features here and there, but too much progress on specific individual details since this autumn. So we'll have more progress on spring. So that's definitely an area where we will see movement. Also, if we think about SharePoint Framework, I think the quality of SharePoint Framework is pretty decent. So we haven't had a massive breakdowns, random things every now and then here and there, not necessarily even dependent on us, dependent on something else.
Newsflash.
Yes.
Yeah. Breaking news. SharePoint Framework, bro. No!
SharePoint Framework, obviously, we know that the framework works. People are happy with the framework, and using that as a de facto model across multiple solutions makes sense. But also what I would love to see, this is something we've been chatting with you, Waldek, as well, is SharePoint adapting some of the standards from other services as well. So as an example, bots. SharePoint should have a standardized location in the SharePoint UI exposed by engineering where the bot can be associated. So in the same way as you could have a bot in the Teams, you could have a bot in SharePoint. So again, that would be, this is completely not in the roadmap or anything, just top of my head, just talking. Mm-hmm. But it would be something which really enforces the message of, hey, you can choose the application, what you want to use. Are you using Teams or using SharePoint? Doesn't matter. We will expose the same web parts and tabs and bots in a standard way. So you can access the tools regardless on which service you are in Office 365. Kind of a more synchronized way of doing development, also more synchronized governance and tenant layer level understanding on what's happening. And these are things obviously which we're discussing internally, but it's really getting that moving on the right direction. If you think about Microsoft 365 and Office 365, those are massive platforms with multiple different organizations. So making agreements on who's owning what, where, and aligning timelines is surprisingly difficult. It's just something what people don't really think that much.
Well, yes, and I guess that the one way around it is like why it is important to be able to imagine, like you would say bots.
Yeah.
Is it bad if for some time you will have bot in Teams but not in a portal? Maybe not. Maybe it's not an issue. As long as it will come there eventually. Exactly. And I mean, still, I mean, it's like the achieving the parity might not be the most important thing on the list that you guys need to do, right?
True.
So well, it will be definitely, it will help users in the end eventually if it was there. It shouldn't be that you need to strive for parity across everything at all costs.
Yep.
Right, because that will block everybody. That will make people wait because somebody else is like it is. I can imagine, like at your scale, it's humongous effort to coordinate all of that. As you said, it's not trivial.
Yeah. And then the other things, obviously, that's the engineering side of the things, and other things what we really let's see, we're working on this one as well, but it's a maturity of the dependent on organizations. So individual organizations have a slightly different maturity level on the community engagement. So, and I think we're getting to the point where this might get slightly overwhelming for the community, and we need to think how we do this. So, just a random example, because I saw this yesterday, I was slightly surprised. So there's a community call for adaptive cards, right? Coming on apparently monthly community calls for adaptive cards, and I'm looking at, and to be fair, I don't know what is really an adaptive card. I kind of know what it is, but still, but it was scheduled overlapping with the identity community call, so that actually, which is like, no, we as a Microsoft, we need to be smarter than this. We can't. It's partly the same people who are using Flow, SharePoint, Office 365, Craft, and all of that. We have to be able to be smarter on working as a one Microsoft, let's say, funnel or a channel towards the community, so that you as a community member, you don't need to choose between two important things.
I don't know, because to me, for example, if you would, so imagine that PNP-like efforts are being implemented across Microsoft org.
Yeah.
So many different teams will put all the effort they can to reach as many devs as they can to help them utilize the abilities that they have to their best needs.
Yep.
That will generate a massive amount of content that you will physically be unable to consume to follow all of them.
Correct.
Basically, a similar experience when you are, for example, at Ignite.
Yep.
No way that you can consume all sessions there in person.
True.
So what you will end up doing is you will show up in person, maybe to the ones where you want to ask the person who speaks or presents something, and then everything else you will view on double speed afterwards.
Yep, that's true. That's true. And so even regardless of that, you will never see all of the videos, even though they're recorded. So yeah, that's fair. So, and that really comes down again that comes down on there is a lot of material, as long as the material is properly produced and documented, and there's a proper description and videos and can be found. It's labeled, it's searchable, so you can actually find what's relevant for you. And I think that's really the key. And sure, we're making that better all the time, but I think we still need to make improvements there as a Microsoft. And yes, the SharePoint BMP is quite often considered as an example for a lot of the new organizations, how they start engaging with the community, which wasn't, by the way, the case 3 years ago or 4 years ago. It was a completely different case at the time. But then we were forced to start engaging with people like Waldek and MVPs, and that really then took off as a model. But it's interesting if every single organization, like I said, would be doing exactly the same as we do with SharePoint BMP, having weekly community calls, having weekly videos coming out, having SP Dev Weekly and Flow Dev Weekly and whatever, can people find what's relevant for them? Or is it overlapping too much? I don't know. So it's...
I guess you cannot physically avoid overlap because there are only that many hours in a day.
That is
there,
absolutely fair.
right? So we will end up in overlap, but then I think it
Is
will
that
be
a bad thing?
our.
Yeah.
No, it's not. As long as we help people make a choice about what they want to see
Sure.
and watch and what they want to spend their hour or 2 hours a day that they can spend to watch that.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I'm going to put you in a spot, and I believe I've done exactly the same last time when we were. I think it was when we were recording a PNP call during the MVP Summit 2 years back. What would you wish? Well, now that we have the moment of Christmas, what would you wish for PNP for the next year?
You mean the SharePoint PNP?
Yes, correct. So for us, for our group, because that doesn't put you in an NDA kind of spot.
No.
So in here, you are in charge. You are the Santa here, the big guy. Whatever, you are the boss.
That's an interesting discussion. Obviously, the SharePoint and the PNP has been growing so enormously during this year as well. We spin up a new amount of open source projects, and it's good to see that every single one of them is alive and well. So basically, getting contributions, people are happy. I think the number one thing, which is actually hard for me as well, because I would love to have more time on doing development and everything else, is to be able to really concentrate more on coordination and making sure that the projects are getting the amount of visibility they need to, helping everybody on the journey, making sure that they know how to reach out for the people, and having more mature and professional way of handling issues and all of this stuff. So having a more structural way of working together with community. I think that's what has to happen, and that has been absolutely one of the objectives from a day one with SharePoint PNP, but we also know that we need to go step by step. So we've been using this, well, Waldek this, but this is for those who are listening still, this chat. We've been using this classic ENCO OTP method, right? I don't know if we actually exposed this publicly.
No.
So
no.
I think originally I've introduced ENCO OTP method back in the Microsoft certified master training for SharePoint. And people were then in a class, somebody was telling us, what kind of methods are you using? I'm using ENCO OTP method. Okay, what is an ENCO OTP method? Well, it's the new kids on the block method, step by step.
I wonder if we have listeners who are younger than that and have no idea, like, what are
most likely
what are new kids on the block?
Yes. But by
now they aren't really new anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not new kids.
Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, I think everything what we do, and that's one of the things. We've been running the PNP program now for quite a few years, and that's one of the things which is always challenging as well. And obviously, you understand, you grow the patience as we go forward with this program. But there's a lot of visions which we want to do. There's a lot of kind of a processes and thinking on a whole. Oh my God, we should do following, but you just don't have the resources. So you need to think.
Bandwidth.
How do you actually get there, and what are the things which are important? This year, as an example, this fiscal, we started this SharePoint Dev Weekly thing. And sure, we're getting 500, 600 views on every single video. Is that wild enough? Is it enough for the value of the video? I don't know. But for now, we will absolutely keep on doing this. So it's not like we're going to shut down. And that's one thing what we also learned related on the PNP, and that's also what I've learned before the PNP, even as a individual blocker, is that just keep on pushing, keep on adding things. Don't be patient and keep on repeating. As long as we provide value for the people, they will come back. And that's true for if you're a blocking person, if you have an open source project which you are running as a person, as long as you keep on adding value and remember to also tell what are you adding to the things. So communicating what's new is super.
But I guess so it is exactly that. I mean, it also comes down to comparison. You can try to compare yourself against the best from day one, and you will keep failing for a long time, and maybe you will never catch up. I mean, like, if I, for example, look at CLI, we're by far not even anywhere close being compared to PowerShell. Not with regards to coverage, usage, and it's like, at times it's like, okay, so is it worth the effort? And then once in a while, somebody was like, you guys saved me that time, or you allowed me to this, or this is awesome. It's like, yes, it is.
Yes.
No matter the numbers are just one side of it.
Yep.
Then there is also people, and as long as you can find a way to reach out to them and find what people think and see if you solve problems they have, that makes it, like, for me personally, worth the effort.
Absolutely. And that makes you, even though you are now a whatever product manager, director in the company, it will give you the opportunity to still write code, because that's your hobby, that's your open source project, and you can still feel to be a developer, solving those problems, helping people by contributing, and that's super
I mean, if I would not be building this, I would be building something else.
Exactly.
It's just an itch I have to scratch.
I need to get the
yeah, exactly. We've been talking again for way too long.
I know, but I have to come back and let's close up on this one. Related on Office 365 CLI, it's a good example of an open source project which started this year and it's growing popularity.
It didn't start this year. It started year back already.
There we go. So, but as an example, if you compare that to the PnP PowerShell, PnP PowerShell had exactly the same challenges when it started, exactly the same thinking. Or when we first started with the PnP CSM extension and started releasing that as a NuGet package, and nobody was using that until we just kept on repeating, and announcement, and adding value, and adding relevant value for the people so that they felt that we want to actually start using that, and that is a combination absolutely of repeats, additional value, and then super important thing, the communication. It doesn't matter if you are the best developer in the world or you have the best stuff developed in GitHub if nobody knows about it. And it's hard for some developers. It was hard for me as well before I was a consultant, and being a consultant 8 years in Microsoft kind of trained my head around the communication. But it's one of those things that even for your own managers, you need to be able to explain the value of what you're bringing. And it's not like, hey, I wrote this thingy. No. What does it actually do? Be proud about it. Even as an example, so I still remember this, just an example related on how people should be kind of exposing their stuff. So before I joined Microsoft, I was working in a smaller company. The company name doesn't matter. I implemented kind of a middle layer in the which was used by multiple products, and then I named that middle layer as iFace. That was way before iPhone and everything else. It was an interface, but it was
iFace.
And then what I started doing was that I started sending weekly emails. iFace team is doing following, and just throughout the company. Yeah. And after doing that 6 months, I started getting a lot of questions on, hey, I want to be joining this iFace team as well. And I said, yeah, it's me. What? But it's all about the communications and feeling and making sure that people actually see the value.
To be honest, you could say that you are PM at heart, and because that is what PMs do. PM job is doing marketing, and reaching people is doing marketing.
Yep.
Right. So maybe for you that was an intuitive thing because you understood at some point, and then you're PM at heart. So for you, it's like, it's the basic of everything you do. Like when you do something, let everybody know that it's there, and not just to trip ego and it's like, look at me. No, just to help people understand, like, why did you choose to spend your time to do it? What is the problem that it solves? What is value that it adds? Because maybe they have the same issue. But if you just say, look at this code, it's cool, they will not make the link, or they might not. Like, this is the thing that I need too. Whereas if you think about the value you add and the problem you solve, then it's maybe, yes, this is exactly what more people need. And that's basically channeling the inner PM in you.
Sure. But I think every single developer, if you don't have the inner PM, then try to find those people who can help you and basically be then your friends on promote the stuff what you do. There's always multiple sides.
PM as a service.
PM that's an interesting concept, yes.
Well, in a way, you could say that we try to go in that direction with this show, trying to help people reach more people. Yes, absolutely.
Sure, that is fun. Now, I think it's time to close up. So
It is.
We didn't cover any community contributions this week. We will come back to those after the year changes, or let's see how the timing goes. If you, any of the watchers, are feeling that we haven't actually found you, please use the hashtag SB Dev Weekly. So just tag them. We will go and check what's being tagged on the Twitter based on that. If you're not in Twitter, try to use Linked or something to get our attention on what you're doing. We just chose to use Twitter because it's so easy to actually follow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Which is, well,
anyway. But I guess we also share a show on LinkedIn. We share it on Facebook.
True.
So like we try to reach as many people as we can. I think the next one might be actually Twitch.
Yep. Yeah, why not? Actually, why not? Why not? But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for being with us on this SB Dev Weekly this year, right?
Yes.
And we'll continue next year as well. So thank you, Waldek. And we'll have there's a lot of people who are volunteering already as visitors, and we have a great list of people who want to actually invite as a visitor in the call as well. So, but thank you for watching. Have a great holiday break. Hopefully, people have some time to charge their batteries and spend time with the families, and then come back on the springtime to deliver. So, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.